A few years ago, I had had an extremely stressful week at work, so I decided to book a cabin on Airbnb very last minute for the same night on a Friday. Me and the dog packed up, and I drove up there about an hour half away. I stopped on the way and got a bottle of wine in a town about 20 minutes from the cabin. Then I went and got food at a restaurant 1 minute down the road. It was very small town vibes. I got to the cabin around 7:45, just enough light out to start a fire, which I did. The cabin was down a gravel road that was about a 5-minute drive from the main road. It was pretty fucking secluded feeling. Even though in comparison to some actually secluded spots, this was only about 20 minutes from like a gas station. There was no cell service near the cabin around. It stopped a minute down the road in. I didn't mind that because it was nice to decompress. The reviews of the place were all great. It had electricity and a clean updated bathroom. Microwave and fridge, nothing fancy but clean. It had a nice front porch to sit on, and there was windows on every wall of the building to see out in the woods around it. The driveway came up from the back side of the cabin, stopped completely alongside the right. We sat around the fire until about 11:30. I put it out, and I go inside in bed with the dog just putzing on my phone. The dog keeps becoming alert to noises outside, but I took it as it was the woods doing their thing. About 45 minutes into laying in bed, I heard a light knock at the door. To say I was fucking terrified is an understatement. My heart fucking dropped into my gut. I didn't answer, and I heard a light knock again about 30 seconds later. Now I was wondering if something is like wrong with the Airbnb, and because there is no cell service, the owner can't get to me. Did I not notice the place was on fire? IDK. In this scenario, it all sort of runs through your head fast. The door was solid and locked, but there was a window to the right of it on the porch. I turned the porch light on and peeked my head in the window, and a guy was standing there. He didn't seem scary necessarily. He may have been drunk, but he wasn't like smashing down the door or screaming. He immediately saw me. The windows were like mad old and shitty, so I could tell he'd be able to hear me even though it was closed. I said, "What do you want?" And he motioned his herd toward the door to come into the cabin. I said, "Why?" With an attitude now, cause who the fuck is this?
For sex?
Now in my mind, like, what? I told him, "This is highly inappropriate and you need to leave right now. I have a GPS cell phone and will call the police immediately." I didn't have a GPS phone, but I've always been a fast thinker. I hoped it would scare him off. The cabin was mostly one open room. I quickly laid back down in the bed, heart pounding. I didn't know if he was going to go get a gun, something to break in with. Directly across the bed from me is the window that looks out onto the driveway. I can see the running lights that turn on when your car doesn't have the lights actually on. I could see them backing up. I laid in bed in fear for about 4 minutes, honestly thinking of stuff I had to use as a weapon. It was COVID time, so I had rubbing alcohol and a lighter right there on my bedside table. My plan was, if he got in somehow, to light him on fire. I got up after a few minutes and went and pushed a dresser and chair in front of the door. The cabin was elevated, so I wasn't terribly worried about the windows, except from one on the porch. I laid back down in bed, lights off, terrified and wide awake until the sun came up. He never came back. I packed up and left as soon as it was bright enough, and messaged the Airbnb owner as soon as I got cell service. They said that nothing like that had ever happened, and they offered to help me file a police report. I didn't because I lived far away and I think it was a one-off thing.